Good morning, everybody. Welcome once again to BTL Bass Talk Live, where we're going to talk bass fishing and anything else that we want to talk about. Matthew, good show today. Our last show before the Thanksgiving holiday. And we're going to have Ken Duke on, talk a little bass fishing business, and then one of only two Oklahoma anglers on the Bassmaster Elite Series this year. We're going to have Luke Palmer on. And his rookie season, get his take on everything that's about to go down in 2019 for him. But I'm very, very happy and looking forward to talking to Luke. I did a little research on him. I know you have. Mm-hmm. The kid seems like he can catch him. He's had an enormous amount of success in Oklahoma. He's had success on the ABA trail. I think I went back. I think he's got like 14,000 in earnings this year on the Opens. And the weird thing, when I went back and looked at that, you know how much he earned for an 8th place finish in the championship?
$1,000.
That's it. I was kind of surprised by that.
It was a no entry fee championship, but I mean the guy did over $100,000 this year between the ABA. He won the championship.
Yeah,
so that's 50 grand plus a 21-foot Triton with a 250.
Yeah.
So throw 50 grand that he could sell on that, and then throw in the Opens. And he fishes all around here. Did some, a lot of Murray all around those areas.
Well, he lives right in the thick of things down in southeast Oklahoma, around McGee Creek, of which you haven't been there yet.
I got an offer. I had one of our listeners on Facebook said, "Hey, if I ever get the urge to go down to McGee Creek, he would hook me up and put me on an 8-pounder." So
hey,
might
man,
have to take him up on that offer.
Take him up on that. All right, so all kinds of stuff to talk about, and then this will be our last show until Thanksgiving. You're going home for Thanksgiving?
Yeah, I'm going to drive back to Illinois tomorrow, and then do the family thing on Thursday, and then go see my 2 cousins and 4 second cousins in Cincinnati on the weekend, and then drive back on Sunday.
Are you making a trip to the tackle shop? The infamous tackle shop where all the rogues came from.
On Wednesday, I will be going to Mike's Tackle World in Decatur, Illinois. Go to see Joanne there. Kind of do that every single year. But I'll tell you what, I have so many rogues now. I think I was working on that box the other day, and I've got upwards of 100 of them. And they're all the old ones and the good ones. So.
Wow.
I don't know how much stuff is left. There's some people who kind of discovered the gems, and you go in there and she's like, so-and-so came down from Iowa. They spent 6 hours in the shop and they bought 900 crankbaits.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but yeah, if there's anything you need, let me know. Make a list for me, and I will attempt to pick it up. I think last time I was there, I found some old speed traps.
This is true. Okay, I forgot to show you this. I have to show you this. I sent it to Edwin Evers, and I sent it to Gerald Swindle, and I sent it to...
Are you name dropping now?
When I show it to you, you will understand why.
Were you showing it to me on your phone?
Yeah.
What is it, a meme?
No, hang on. And then look at Swindle's response. All right, that's what I sent to him.
That is a giant drop tine buck. Who is that?
How big is it, Matthew? And I'm
not a hunter, but that's a big deer.
Okay, now hang on. Look at Swindle's response.
Some bitch, that's a hammer. Wait, what is it? What'd you say? One of my players?
Yeah, it was one of my players shot it in his backyard, dude.
Legally?
Yeah.
I'm assuming he does not live in a subdivision.
No. Lives on some acreage. Just walked out in his backyard, and there it was. And I'm not a hunter, and I have absolutely nothing against people that hunt. In fact, I'd like to do it sometimes. But what I do know, and it's unfortunate, I was going to have this picture. I've never seen a deer around here in Oklahoma.
And that is in Oklahoma?
Yeah, with that many antlers. With that many points.
You're not.
I don't even
many antlers.
Whatever. I don't even know how to point the thing out. Do you know how to point the thing out?
I think it's got to be a certain... I'm really showing my lack of hunting, but I think each time has to be a certain length.
Have you seen anything like that in Oklahoma before?
With the drop tines and stuff, that would be a non-typical, and then you have to let them I think, dry out or something, and then you measure them to determine how many inches there are, and then
That is crazy.
Each point on it has to be a specific length. So that's a non-typical. That's one that that's one that like you see in Johnny's museum in Springfield.
Edwin said that it was one of the most amazing deers he's ever seen in Oklahoma.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. And
in his backyard.
Edwin's, I think Edwin's boy shot a nice one too.
Yeah. Crazy. I saw a picture of that. It was going around school because, I mean, everybody at this school hunts.
That's such an Oklahoma thing.
Yeah. It went viral at
such
school.
An Oklahoma thing.
It is. I think it was a big deal, though, man.
I think Caleb Sumrall's little girl, I think she got one.
Yeah. His name was Caleb Reed.
Okay, there you go.
So one of the players.
To him for our iTunes listeners. That's a large deer with a lot of
points.
So, hey, at least you didn't call them horns.
No. That's what a ram has. By the way, did you watch the Monday night game last night?
Watched bits and pieces of it. It was insane.
Pretty incredible.
It actually lived up to the hype. It reminded me of. We'll bring the Monday night football game back to fishing. It reminded me of going into a Falcon Lake tournament. And all the hype surrounding that, and then they go out and everyone busts 100 pounds. It was like, holy cow, it lived up to it and then some. So.
Offense, defense, some of the plays they made on the defensive side of the ball.
But I think the Chiefs covered, didn't they?
I don't know. I don't know what the spread was. I'm not a gambling guy.
I think it was 3.
I have no idea. Don't know, man. All right. We're going to have Ken Duke on here in about probably about 5 minutes. We'll take a break and come back.
What are you going to ask him?
It's all about a lot of the business stuff going on. He is the editor of Fishing Tackle Retailer magazine, and he is very, very entrenched in the industry. Very curious to get his thoughts on the $1.3 billion purchase of Pure Fishing. Get his take on that. And then also, man, a lot of discussion about what trade is going to have an effect on the tackle industry with all the stuff that's taking place with China. I know there was a glimmering of hope last week when Trump made a comment that he wants to get a deal done with China, and what truly is the impact with all of these, tariffs that are taking place on imports from China. So hopefully Ken will be able to give us an insight. And then some weird scenarios that might take place that we want to get some insight on him as far as this year, or actually 2019's Bassmaster Classic. And I do want to mention one thing, again, that we discussed on Thursday's show. Hang on, let me get it here. I've got it in my stack. That whole open thing. All right, with the MLF guys.
Are they going to fish?
Are they going to fish? Are they not going to fish?
I heard that. I think David from the Outdoor Scoreboard. They've gotten a drop in 3 straight shows now. I think he said that Jesse Wiggins was planning on fishing maybe the opens. And then I also want to go back and say, I kind of got all carried away there and talked about how the guy who won 2019 Classic could be in the 20. And I think that Luke, and we'll have to ask Mr. Duke because he knows the rules on this still. But I think the viewers might be right on that as far as if the guy doesn't fish the Elite Series the following year. He
Luke Clausen rule.
Actually, it was the Woo Daves rule. That Woo Daves, after he won the Chicago Classic, did not fish like basically that entire season in 2001, and then ended up fishing in the Classic, and then they kind of made it to where you had to fish the entire next season to qualify. And then when Luke did it, I went back and I did some research. There was like a kind of a weird debacle at the press conference as to whether or not he'd get to fish the next year, and then he turned it down, and then he didn't get to fish the next year. But my question with Ken Duke, and I don't know if you read the Fishing Tackle Retailer website, but he's got a lot of good articles on there, comes out with him. And I'm going to hit you with some stuff because I know you guys get into some discussions, but these are Ken Duke's, and this is from a September article, rules for avoiding an argument in a discussion. So I'm gonna give him to you now because he's got them bullet pointed, just so when we get him on in the next segment, you guys will
so you're going to tell me now?
Yeah.
Okay, what's the first one?
First one is, do not argue with someone whose opinion is of no interest to you.
That's a good point.
Yeah, we don't have to worry about that. His opinion is interest. I think he thinks your opinion. Yeah. 2 is, do not argue with someone who is incapable of presenting relevant and valid points. Nay, you kind of you get lost a little bit on this one because some of your points are a little out there. But I'll give you for the most part.
Very creative.
You're creative. 3,
Right.
do not argue with someone who does not listen.
Oh, I listen.
At times. Do not argue with someone too stupid to realize that he or she has lost the argument.
That's a great point.
Those are the 4 rules that Ken Duke has. So
I like
keep those in mind going into the next segment.
I like them a lot.
Yeah.
Those I might get those printed up. That's pretty good. All right. In case you're wondering, in case you did not listen to the show on Thursday, what we were referring back to was the fact that there are some Major League Fishing anglers that are going to have the opportunity to fish the Central Opens with 0 conflicts if they do not qualify for the Summit Cup. If they qualify for the Summit Cup, then they can't do it. But if they don't qualify, and how many guys qualify for the Summit Cup?
The World Championship or just the Cup?
Yeah.
The World Championship?
Yeah.
I think
Is it
16.
16 or 8?
16.
Okay,
It's
so you got
3 from each of the 4, plus like 2 plus the Red Crest champion.
So then you have, I'm doing quick math here, 64 guys, because there's 80.
Yeah.
You have 64 guys that will not qualify if the number 16 that could, once again, qualify for the Bassmaster Classic if they were to win one of the Opens.
Or finish in the top of the points.
Yeah, the schedule is really good. I mean, Toledo Bend, Smith Lake, La Crosse, and Grand Lake.
If you like driving, yeah.
Well, isn't that part of it, man? That's part of it. Heck, you're fishing all around the country anyway. What's
But-
another 4
and
stops?
If Wiggins does fish it, I mean, the Smith Lake is right there in his wheelhouse.
Yeah.
You have to
Winning, you're
give
in.
him a 50% chance.
Winning,
out
you're in.
there.
Winning, you're in. Is that a good move to put the winning, you're in back in?
I think it is. I think you're going to have more guys, and half the Elite Series field is making the Classic this year. I think it might entice some of the bigger names.
Yeah.
I don't have an issue with. I mean, look how tough it is to win.
It's
I
hard to
understand
win.
it. I understand not the no winning you're in on tour, where you're accumulating the points. I also
Yeah.
understand it in the Opens, but it's only a 4 tournament schedule, and then the championship. I think you're going to get more. I mean, you look at the field size was bigger. That was
Yeah.
one of the reasons why they did it. I mean, heck, they'd go up to Oneida at the end of the year in the Northern Opens before this win and you're in, and there'd be 70, 80 boats in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now you got guys who are going to stick around, fish
No,
them all, and do it.
Good point. Good point.
The other thing that I was going to bring out is I just saw FLW released, Ike's show wrapped up last week. His last one was there in Austin.
Really good, too.
Good
really,
stuff. I hope
really.
that comes back for another year. It's good to see a guy who knows what he's doing fishing on TV. But FLW came out with some interest. Said FLW pros be featured on History Channel show, and it's a show called "It's How You Get There," and
When is this going to launch?
it's going to be on November 25th at 8 a.m. So that's coming up quick. like in a
Okay.
couple days.
What's it based on?
It says it's how you get there. That's the name of the show. Features hosts Sam and Julia and Jen as they travel around the country experiencing a variety of transportation modes. Now this sounds something like my dad would watch. In the case of episode 3, they ride in Ranger bass boats with the FLW Tour Pros, the FLW Pros as their guides. The episode takes place in Charles County, Maryland, on the Potomac River, where David Dudley, Brian Schmidt, and Tim Kales, along with the hosts and some of their guests, compete to reach their fishing hole first, then catch the most and biggest bass.
Huh.
So now you have Nat Geo Wild, and now you've got FLW Pros on
The History Channel.
The History Channel.
Interesting. I had no idea. Cool stuff. Hey, Andy in Indiana says, will Major League Fishing keep their schedule off of the Bassmaster Classic out of respect?
We won't know because we'll never have a Major League Fishing schedule. It's just
We
going to
have
be...
a schedule. We just don't have
It's
locations.
just going to be, we're going to come in for the show one day and someone's going to be like, hey, there's a Major League Fishing boat I just looked out my window on the lake and they're there, so...
That's not true.
When is it? I mean, okay, I know you're not a betting man, but if you were to put a line
I'm a
on
betting man.
when we will have a full season schedule.
Not till next year. My gut feeling is they're going to come out with the first 3. They're going to make the announcement of the first 3 events, and then
I mean,
it only makes it is in the situation it is in simply because of money, Matthew. That's all it is.
It doesn't
they're trying
affect a lot of people, but it does affect us.
They're trying to get the communities, the chambers, whoever it is in the communities that they're trying to go to pony up the money. You can't blame them for that. That's what they're trying to do.
If you want to go to the MLF, how far out are you going to plan your vacation? I mean, you've got kids, you've got a job, you've got a wife.
I already have my week planned for next year.
No,
for 2019.
If you're going to go spend a week, you're like, I want to go to a Major League Fishing event. I want to take part in this fan. I want to meet the guys. How far out? Because me is not a good example. I mean, I can pretty much go anywhere at an hour notice.
You know when the date is. So I don't think the date is the issue.
Right, but you're going to have to figure out. It does, because if you live in Alabama and you want to take your family to a Major League Fishing event, don't you want to know where it is so you can plan it? So, okay, I'm going to go to this one. Well, what if this one's in Idaho?
Maybe, I don't know, 6-8 weeks. Maybe less than that.
All right.
You know, the whole 30-day advance if you're flying to save money.
I would think that they would not schedule on top of the Cup or the Classic, just because they would lose a lot of viewers too, because those events are going to draw viewership over a regular season MLF. Yeah. Now it'd be a really interesting move if they put the Red Crest or their World Championships film dark, so it doesn't matter. Yeah. But if they put the Red Crest in the upcoming years on top of
the Classic,
well, it would have to be the Forest Wood Cup the way it's done.
But here's another reason why I think that will never happen, is because you're going to see some MLF guys at the Classic working.
And don't you have major title sponsors of all three organizations that are the same? Yeah. Wouldn't you want to spread that sponsorship out?
Yeah.
So I would think that I mean, if you're Johnny Morris, do you want your whole bang to be in one weekend where you've got two championships on top of each other? Or do you want Bass Pro Shops to be highlighted in the first week of August and the fourth week of August?
Yeah. No, I don't think that'll ever happen. I really don't. I think there's too much money involved. Too many things going on, and it still is the granddaddy of them all. It really is. Agreed?
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at it, I know you're referring to the was it the Mark Jackson Rose Bowl comment?
Yeah.
No, it's not Mark Jackson. Who is it?
Keith Jackson.
Keith Jackson.
Oh, let me tell you about a guy named Keith Jackson.
Let me tell you though, the Rose Bowl isn't what it used to be.
Well, that's because of the rotation.
Right.
But it's still the granddaddy of them all.
Right.
It still is. All right, we're gonna take a break, come back with Ken Duke live via Skype. Everybody stay tuned.
Sleek new design with easy control file. The clearest images underwater with uncompromising range. Live mapping from the touchscreen. View notifications, video, even Google Maps on screen. And for the first time ever, real-time view of fish movements with live sight sonar. HDS Live. New from Lowrance.
Jacob Wheeler and Tommy Biffle have a lot in common.
Flat bill.
The perfect shape.
You gotta love some light tackle.
I know I have a spinning rod.
I love my hammer crawl.
Biffle bug.
Rigged
on a hardhead.
Well, they could be twins. Bifflebug, hammer crawl, hardhead, from Gene LaRue.
Let me help you, man.
Let me help that hat.
Whoa.
There you go. I already looked better.
Pros depend on hydraulic jack plates to get the best out of their boats. Do what they do. Demand Atlas performance. Atlas gets you from the bottom to the top in less than 8 seconds, even with the big 4 strokes. And when you gotta turn right around and get that heavy load back up in rough water, Atlas's innovative design and American-made components will get you there with confidence.
I'm at Depot. Just look for yourself. There's an Atlas jack plate on just about every professional's boat.
The Atlas hydraulic jack plate. You can depend on it.
My rods look different because they are different. Every rod is built by the pros and for the pros. When you pick up a white Duffet fishing rod, You're getting a cutting-edge rod, one that's truly pro-driven, with the actions you need for every bait category you fish. I put my name on it. It's my promise to build you a great rod you can count on.
Duck It Fishing, Micro Magic, Macro Magic, or White Ice.
Try them. They work.
Man, I am so excited to be joining the AFCO Pro staff. They got some really cool, innovative products to help you have a more enjoyable, comfortable day while you're out there on the water. Really stylish, great functional clothing. You're gonna love it. The thing I'm most excited about though is AFCO has pledged to donate 10% of their total profits back to supporting the conservation of our fisheries. And I am all about supporting a company that's about supporting conservation so that we can enjoy our bass fishing for a long time. Check us out, AFCO.
When I talk about Sunline, I think of one word: confidence.
Sunline FX2 is what I use for all of my frogging and flipping.
S61 braid, which braid plays a big part in fishing line.
Shooter, I'm going to use in those close quarter deals like flipping and pitching.
One of my favorite techniques in fishing the tournament trail is to fish offshore ledges.
We have taken the questions out of the equation.
Take my word for it. It works. It works, dude.
All right, we are back on a Tuesday. And it's been a little chilly. I can't believe you went out and won a little money on Sunday, man.
And Saturday.
It was freezing.
Saturday was nice. It was 65 sunny. I woke up Sunday and I had to be like, I guarantee if I do not hook the boat up and go to the lake, I'll look at the results. Everyone will have 18 to 20 and I'll be pissed at myself.
So you went out and you performed very well.
Yeah.
In the frigid temps. And dude, it was like 27.
No, it was 33 there. It wasn't nearly as bad.
Did you happen to catch any highlights toward the, I don't know, maybe at the beginning of the fourth quarter of the OU game? The crowd?
Yeah, it looked like they were not.
Everybody left, man. And OU ended up giving up 40 to Kansas. There's no chance they make the big show, dude. No chance.
I wouldn't say that.
No chance.
You got to be positive.
We'll see.
I think there's a chance.
All right. I am thrilled once again to have our next guest on here on BTL, Mr. Ken Duke. Probably the most intelligent, knowledgeable person in the bass fishing world in existence today, and he is shaking his head on the live Skype feed that I'm going to bring in here. But seriously, Matthew, is there anybody else in the industry that has more knowledge than this man?
Not more correct knowledge. There's people who think they have more knowledge, not knowledge that is factually correct and can be backed up with numbers on paper.
Yeah, that's a good point. Kenny, you there, man?
I'm here, guys. Can you hear me?
Yes. Loud and clear.
I appreciate the chance to be on the show. I appreciate the undeserved praise. It's always a pleasure.
Well, I really wanted to get you on before the end of the year, and I appreciate you taking time out because so much has taken place from the business side of this game, and you being the editor of Fishing Retailer Magazine, it's hopefully we're going to get some insight on some of this stuff. And I'll be honest with you, Kenny, right out of the bat, I was absolutely blown away when I saw the number that was paid for pure fishing, $1.3 billion. Right off the bat, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it was more than I expected, but as the press releases came out, we learned a little bit more about the situation. Maybe it's not nearly as high a number as we first supposed, because pure fishing's net sales in 2017 were $556 million. So if you figure that's about 3 times net sales for the year, $1.3 billion is probably right in line for what that company's worth. And Sycamore Partners, the New York private equity firm that bought them, maybe they made a great deal at that number.
So are we going to start seeing power worms at Hot Topic?
And Staples, which is convenient for me because I got a Staples a lot closer than any fishing retailer around here.
It's interesting. Why do you think the PEGs, the private equity groups...
I need...
Why, Kenny, why do you think the PEGs, the private equity groups, are getting so entrenched in the fishing business?
Guys, I really think it started in about 2011. It was maybe not as heavily noticed at the time, but another private equity group, I think they were called Corco or something like that, they spent $67 million, which is nothing compared to what was just paid for pure fishing. But they spent $67 million to buy a 2/3 interest in Yeti. So Yeti at the time was worth about $100 million, tremendous amount of money, but now Yeti's worth more than $5 billion. So they have increased their investment by 50 times. And when Corco came in and saw Yeti take off, helped Yeti take off, made Yeti take off, I think a lot of other private equity firms started to take notice of the outdoors industry. And that's why we're seeing Peak Rock Capital get involved with Lew's and Strike King. That's why we're seeing Sycamore Partners, which manages a fund of more than $15 billion. That's why we're seeing them get involved with pure fishing. And we're only going to see more of it. It's only going to continue.
I can just see Justin Lucas having to wear the Hot Topic clothing now. Okay, so here's my question, Mr. Duke. I want to bring this back to the interesting and exciting world of bass fishing. How does this affect Josh Bertrand? How does this affect Skeet Reese, Justin Lucas? I mean, this thing's been sold, like, because let's say Skeet's been with them, it's been sold like 4 times. How does this affect those guys at all? Are they going to come in, nothing changes, everything changes? For the guys that everyone knows, what's the deal?
Unfortunately, I think the only answer here really is it depends. First of all, a lot of these guys already have their contracts for 2019. Some of them may have longer-term contracts than that. So I would absolutely expect Pure Fishing is going to live up to those contracts. I mean, they have to. It's in writing. They've signed off on them. So those deals will continue for the term of the contract. But where it gets interesting, and you guys know this so well, where it gets interesting is Sycamore Partners comes in. We don't know just exactly how active they're going to be in the operations of Pure Fishing. We've seen heads roll when Newell brands came in. We've seen some of those heads come back and take their former positions as Newell was still there. So how does Sycamore Partners handle it? Who do they listen to? Where do they see their place in the thing? Are they going to micromanage things and really change the dynamic at Pure Fishing, or are they going to let things continue to roll kind of the way they are right now? It's tough to say.
Moving on to the next subject, and this was actually a comment on the instant feedback, and I don't think we've ever really talked about this, Ken. What are your thoughts on the merger between Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's?
You know, I think it's a huge deal in terms of the larger retail world, but I think from an angler perspective and from a independent tackle retailer perspective, I don't know that it means that much. If you're Strike King, if you're Lew's, if you're Daiwa, if you're Pure Fishing, it's a big deal because now the 800-pound gorilla in the room becomes the 1,400-pound gorilla in the room, and they control things like when they pay you, how long do they hold on to your stuff before you get a check, what they pay you. They're much more powerful now that Johnny Morris has not only Bass Pro but also Cabela's. It really impacts things from a manufacturer perspective, but for the rank and file angler like me, for the independent retailer, probably pretty much business as usual. You either have a Cabela's down the block from you or a Bass Pro, or you don't. And for those of us who just want to go fishing, things are not all that different. I was in a Cabela's just a few days ago, in fact, in the Atlanta area, and the main difference I noticed there is that there's a whole lot of Bass Pro branded stuff for sale in Cabela's. And I'm guessing I go into Bass Pro Shops a lot. more often than I do in Cabela's because there's one here in the Orlando area. But I'm guessing there's a lot more Cabela's products, store brand type stuff in Bass Pro now, and that's the biggest difference I see for the angler and the end user.
Ken, what's the status? How is the mom and pop tackle retailer doing? The small stores in the communities? What's the status on those?
It varies, Mark, and I think it varies based upon how good these smaller independent retailers are at creating a differentiation between themselves and the big boxes. We know they can't compete on selection. There's just no way your local mom and pop can carry as much stuff as a Bass Pro or a Cabela's or a Dick's Sporting Goods or somebody. Well, maybe they can as a Dick's Sporting Goods, but some of the giant box stores, they can't compete on selection. It's difficult and challenging to compete on price. So what they have to do is find other ways to compete. Like Matt was talking about going to his tackle shop back in Decatur, Illinois. They find different ways to compete. They have the up-to-the-minute knowledge on what's going on in the local waterways. They maybe sponsor some local bass tournaments. They don't have the same selection as the giant big boxes, but they have what works, and they can tell you how to use it. And the guy behind the counter is an expert and not just somebody who's good at pushing the buttons on a cash register, which you see so often at the big boxes.
Right.
So for the independent retailers who know how to differentiate, life is still good. There are still great opportunities. If you can't differentiate, if you're trying to differentiate on the basis of price or selection, you're doomed.
Wow. What is the impact of everything that's been happening from a tariff standpoint in China? How is that going to affect the everyday angler? Are we going to see a spike in prices? Is it affecting the industry right now?
It is absolutely affecting the industry, and that impact has kind of been on hold for a little while. People have been waiting to see how things shake out. But now I'm starting to see, for example, I got an email from a company just in the past week saying, hey, we're going to Vietnam next week, and we are going to look at manufacturing operations there because the Chinese tariffs are starting to impact our bottom line in a significant way. That's going to increase. People are going to look for other opportunities to manufacture their products to remain price competitive. So in the meantime, a lot of this stuff is going to trickle down to the consumer. You're going to start to see some increase in some of the stuff, increase in prices, some of the stuff that's made in the countries that are impacted by tariffs, and things are going to have to settle out. There's going to be a lot of flux maybe for the next 6, 8, 12 months until things settle out and people start to figure out where they can get stuff done, or the U.S. reaches a more advantageous trade agreement with China. But this is serious stuff, and it's a big deal. And of course, it doesn't impact just the fishing industry. That's where we feel it the most. But it impacts every aspect of American consumerism.
All right. From a percentage-wise, any idea how much, from a retail price standpoint, that it's going to affect the consumer?
That's going to depend. That's going to vary manufacturer by manufacturer, guys, because some of these manufacturers have 50% of their product that's made in China. Some of them have 25%. So it's going to depend on how much is done overseas, where it's done overseas, where this stuff is ultimately assembled and put together. So that's kind of a wide open question that varies by manufacturer.
All Jeffries really cares about are spooks, vixens, and Carolina rig weights.
That is not true.
So if the Carolina rig weight spooks and vixens are made in China, he's going to start stocking up.
Oh, that's not true. Not true.
But Mike, are you done with the CNBC questions?
No, I have more, but go ahead.
Okay, keep going.
No, keep going.
No, keep going, because I'm going to go back to fishing. But
we need to mix it up here. Go ahead. Okay. Jump in there with a fishing question.
Okay, my question.
I want to know if Matt is playing poker with his Decatur buddies when he goes back.
No, it's a in and out deal. It's 3 days of family and driving home, and a stop at Mike's on Wednesday afternoon.
Thank you again, by the way, for letting me sit in on your poker game when we were there a few years ago for one of those all-star events. That was fun.
Yeah, that was
cool.
That would have been 2012, I believe.
Cool.
I remember that because that was the weekend I got my truck, and now I just hit 250,000 miles on it.
Oh my God.
Okay, so I'll throw the fishing question there. Major League Fishing came out and announced they are going to do the every fish counts and stuff, and now you're actually starting to see guys kind of comprehend that this is going to change the way that they have to tournament fish, regardless of whether they say it's not or it is. I mean, every fish counts is going to change the way you fish. How is that, in your opinion, going to impact the tackle sales in those companies? Because obviously, if you have people who are, following the Bass Pro Tour events and are wanting to buy what these guys are catching 50, 60, 70 fish on, is that going to, in your opinion, kind of shift the dynamic of what is in demand?
I absolutely think it is, Matt. I love that question. People don't consider the impact, sometimes don't consider the impact of what tournament fishing does on tackle sales and trends in the fishing industry. And you guys obviously do, because that's a very insightful question. You look at the when BASS had the first modern bass tournaments in the late 60s, the limit was 15 fish, and not many people limited, but it kind of made things wide open. It's very similar in that sense to the Major League Fishing format, because you think about it, a lot of Major League Fishing days go by and guys don't have 15 fish, but they still have a good performance that day. Well, it made everything wide open. It made finesse techniques viable. As bass lowered the creel limit to first 10 and then 7 and finally 5, it put a premium on catching a bigger fish. And it made a technique come to the fore that otherwise might not have, and that's flipping. We think of flipping as kind of the be-all, end-all of tournament fishing. And you never have many tournaments go by before flipping is a major factor in somebody winning. Well, in every fish counts, I think we're going to see a trend perhaps toward smaller baits, toward finesse techniques, toward things that are geared to catching greater numbers, but not necessarily bigger size. Illegal fish in Major League Fishing, of course, is anything that weighs more than a pound. And I watched an episode recently coming out of the Mississippi River area. I think they were fishing one of the Oxbow lakes there, and you wonder if MLF stands for more little fish, because that's kind of what prevails there. The biggest fish of the whole day was less than 3 pounds. So, and when guys launch, they don't necessarily know that the place has only small fish or that bigger fish are rare, but you wonder why everybody doesn't start the tournament day with a Ned rig and just try to go to town with that and see if they can catch 20 or 30 fish in the hours that they have. But getting back more precisely to Matt's question, yes, I do think it's going to have an impact, but a lot of that impact is going to depend on how big that MLF audience ultimately is. If MLF can command the bulk of the audience in the industry, then we're going to see a shift toward more finesse techniques. If they can't, then we won't. And we won't see a huge rise in finesse techniques and so forth. But anytime you ramp up the creel limit, you change everything about that tournament dynamic.
All right.
I hope that answers your question, Matt.
Did it, Matt?
Absolutely. Now back to Business Talk Live.
No, I have a couple more industry questions for you, Ken. One, have we gotten to the point, and I just don't know, obviously that's why I'm asking you, have we gotten to the point where Amazon is affecting the retail industry in the fishing world? And if we have not, is that coming in the near future?
I think we're getting close to that tipping point. Right now, if you go to Amazon and you search for spinning rod, for example, or any of the bigger categories that involve, say, the bass market, and you ask it for that particular tackle item, you'll get a bunch of stuff quite often that those of us who consider ourselves pretty serious, pretty avid anglers would classify as junk, And as long as that's true, I would say they have not reached the tipping point yet. But Amazon is making a play. Amazon shows up at ICAST now. Amazon shows up at places like the ASA Summit. And Amazon is getting to be more and more important. And companies are being approached by Amazon to be kind of their test market in things, and Amazon is offering them very favorable deals if they participate by making their stuff available on Amazon, which is controversial because naturally the independent retailers and even the big box stores don't want you on Amazon.
Right.
That's not helping them. So yeah, we're going to get there. And honestly, if Amazon ever sets its sights on the fishing market and decides that the fishing market is big enough, strong enough, powerful enough, there are enough dollars there, then Amazon is going to be a player really fast.
I got one more question, and then we got Luke. I don't know what Luke Palmer's schedule is. I told him 9. We're way past that. But I got a question.
We're good.
And we talk about this all the time, and I just thought of this. In your opinion, with your position, how much of an impact do the YouTube guys have on the industry? I mean, all the way from the Scott Martins to the Guggen Squad guys to all of those subscribers. Is that a big enough factor that you can see that over the past several years, that trend to where they're impacting buying habits and companies and stuff?
I don't think they're significantly impacting buying habits yet, but I think we may see that soon. And I have maybe a weird thought about this, and with my apologies to Luke for hanging on here. The kind of fame that the YouTube guys have, the Guggen Squad and others, is, I call it binary fame. And it's weird in the sense we've never seen it before because media has never operated like this before. But let's talk about LeBron James for just a moment. If you think about LeBron James and you put fame on a continuum between 0 and 10, there's a whole lot of people who know something about LeBron James, and they are in that 4, 5, 6, 7 range. And then at 10, you've got the guy who is at this very moment wearing a LeBron James jersey. And you've got at 0, some people who have never heard of LeBron James, okay? But there's not a lot of 0s in North America, and there are quite a few 10s, and there's a world of 4, 5, 6s, and 7s. That's LeBron James's fame. He's enormously famous. Now let's think about the YouTube guys. The biggest, most popular YouTube angler types have a subscriber base of something less than 1 million, basically, okay? There's a lot of them between that 500,000 and 1 million range. They're doing very well because YouTube is monetizing their efforts. They're making a lot of money. But let's put their fame on this same continuum. 10, anybody who scores a 10 with them is subscribing to their channel, knows who they are, okay? 0 is the other 230 million people in America. And there's very few in the middle. Their fame is either full on 10 or it's 0, okay? And since they're reaching basically fewer than 1 million people, I don't know that they're having a significant impact on the fishing buying habits of America. They are impacting, I'm sure, those 500,000 to 1 million subscribers, but then there's everybody else who's never even heard of them. Now, you've got companies like Guggen Baits, which is partially owned, I think, by the folks who run Favorite Fishing, partially owned by Scott Martin, partially owned by the 5 Guggen Squad members. And they're banking on the fact that their reach is going to be big enough to make that bait company a success. And I like the way they calculate their reach. The 5 of them will tell you, oh, we have 3 million plus followers. Well, no, you don't. You have one guy who's at 1 million, and another guy who's at 750, and a couple of guys who are at 500. And the only way you have 3.5 million reach is if there's no overlap. But of course there's overlap. And so we don't really know what your numbers are, but there's something less than that 3.5 or 5 million probably. But that reach is still very significant. And if it grows, and if they can find ways to leverage it, then they're going to be very successful and may one day impact the fishing industry on a much larger scale. And that was a weird way to answer your question.
It was a very good answer. I learned something. I hadn't not thought of it that way.
I know we're kind of running out of time, but there's 2 questions on the instant feedback we have to get to. Matt in Alabama and let's see here, a couple other people also want to know, what are your thoughts about the industry supporting 3 major tours?
Great question. I love that question. and I think right now, I can only answer that with a question. Is the industry going to support 3 major tours? My question right now is, does Major League Fishing, by expanding and making their tournament universe much larger, which I love Major League Fishing. I love the concept of every fish counts. I think that's terrific. But is the fishing industry really going to support 3, or are they just going to divide up the support the fishing industry has among 3? Does Major League Fishing make the pie any larger? I don't think so. They talk about how they're going to grow the sport. Well, I'm waiting. Let's see how that happens. But right now, I don't think they're making the pie any larger. They're just dividing the pie in 3 pieces rather than 2.
All right, and then TJ in North Carolina wants to know, a lot of first-time hot-selling lures are manufactured in the U.S., and then knockoffs are outsourced overseas. Is that correct?
You know, a lot of hot American baits are manufactured in China or Japan or Mexico. These baits come, depending on the manufacturer, these baits come from all over the world. The smaller companies tend to make them domestically at first, make them right here in the USA at first. But what you see quite often is that as the baits gain in popularity and as the manufacturer struggles to keep up with demand, then you've got to take it overseas. Then you'll see them getting ripped off, not by foreign companies, by American companies that have big manufacturing plants in China or Mexico or somewhere else. You see this all the time. It happens every time you go to ICAST. Sharks prowl the aisles of ICAST. We've all seen it. They take pictures, they take notes, they try to walk away with a bait where they can. And if they see that this thing is going to get some traction, they've got their own version that's just different enough to escape any patent issues. And they have it out on the market faster, with better distribution, at a lower cost than the original manufacturer. I would say to TJ in North Carolina, TJ, there are baits out there right now that you think are new and innovative and special, but they were actually invented by a guy in his garage in Wisconsin 5 years ago, but he couldn't get to market fast enough, cheap enough, effectively enough. And so now you and most of the rest of the fishing public believe it's actually a product from some other company.
Wow. All right, Kenny, here's what we need to do. We need to go because we're running out of time, but I'd like to have you on again sometime in December before Christmas. Talk about the holidays, talk about some other stuff. Not totally around the business, but so much is taking place from the business side of this industry that's why I really wanted you on before Thanksgiving. But we want to get you on. I'd like to get you on before Christmas once again.
I would love that, guys. It's always a pleasure. BTL is fantastic and a lot of fun.
All right. Have a great Turkey Day, man.
Thanks, guys. You too.
All right. Let's see here. There you have it.
Finally stopped.
Ken Duke. Great stuff. Do what, Matthew?
You just say you finally stopped calling me Matthew and then started calling Ken Kenny.
I call him Kenny all the time. I've called him Kenny for years.
You have?
Yeah.
I don't recall that. But.
All right. Let's do this, man. What can you talk about? And I'll try and get him on the line real quick so we don't have to take another break. I feel bad that we went long, but, man, that's
it was
just
all good stuff.
It's great stuff with Mr. Duke.
Getting a couple texts about the impressive... Just said he must have shaved his head specifically for the show, that it was looking extra shiny today. That's a compliment.
That's how he rolls.
I think he had a little. What kind of hat is that he had?
Fedora.
A fedora.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he pulls it off too.
All right, I'm gonna try and get Luke Palmer on the line now.
All right, I texted him, let him know we were running a second behind.
All right, let's see here.
There's so much that goes into it before you just go buy something and tie it on.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot.
Yeah.
Hello.
Luke.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Mark and Matt. You are live, man, on BTL. How you doing?
Pretty good. How you guys?
We're doing
well.
good. How's the audio?
Well, I need to just dial something in, so go ahead and talk to him just for a second.
Oh. Are you at the... are you working today?
Yeah.
All right. I'm having a tough time hearing him.
I'm working on it.
Okay. Well, we're just going to sit here and talk to you live for a brief moment until Mark gets you dialed in. We went long with Mr. Duke, who him and Jeffries went CNBC on us and asked all sorts of fancy economical questions. But Jeffries is going to work on some stuff here instead of taking
I got to
break.
hear him talk.
Oh, you got to talk then. Give us a... Keep talking.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, oh yeah, there we go. You got it, Mark?
You good?
Yeah, we're good now.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for joining us, dude. We talked about it last week. We were talking about the Elite Series coming out with their roster for the 2019 season, and I think the max, there's been like 13 guys from Oklahoma or 12 guys on the tour before, going all the way back to the inaugural 2006 season that had like Jimmy Houston on it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And obviously Ken Cook and a bunch of names, Kenyon Hill, and now there's 2. And you are one of them. So just kind of talk about your thoughts now that the list is out and you're an Elite Series pro.
I guess it's like a lot of us. It's kind of one of those dream come true deals. You think about this stuff your whole life growing up and thinking, well, that'd be cool to get to do it one day, and you almost don't think it could ever happen, and then all of a sudden, bam, it's thrown at you and it's there. So it's been pretty cool as far as that part of it. I don't know if it's really even sunk in, because hell, I'm still going to work every day, and even whenever I go fish these deals, I'm still going to drive straight back home and go to work. So I don't know if you consider it a complete profession for me yet,
And where
on
is
that side.
Where do you work? What do you do?
Well, we own family's had a hardware store here in Colgate forever, it seems like. And I'm the next in line for that, I guess you'd say. And plus, I got a lawn business I do on the side of it too.
So you're pretty handy. You can
hooked up.
fix all your own stuff and all that. You're not one of those guys who just goes out and lets everyone else fix your stuff. You probably have a pretty good background on how to get it done.
Well, somewhat. I'm not that mechanically inclined. I hope all my stuff doesn't break. That's my hopefully the best thing. But you know how that goes.
Luke, how did you get into this game?
Well, Dad, I started fishing team tournaments with my dad when I was about, I think I was 10 or 11. And that's, I stayed with that, growing up, because my dad fished tournaments, way before me. And I kind of grew up wanting to do that, because I said, hell, that's, more time you get to spend with your dad and everything. So I said, hell, that's something I want to do. And that's kind of how I got started doing that. And then it just kind of, so I want to see what I can do at the next level by myself, and see if I can, do very well at that. And I was, been somewhat successful at it, I guess you'd say, but not too much.
We were talking a little bit before we had you on there about the ABA Race Scott Championship. I believe it was this past August. It seems like things really came together for you in 2018. You get a $50,000 check there, 21-foot Triton with a $250 on it. Then you cash almost $14,000 in the Open. So you're over $100,000. I mean, could that win in the ABA have come at a better time for you to qualify for the Elite Series, and then with the restructuring of all of the leagues, get to fish the Elite Series for when it's all said and done, basically $20,000 in entry fees? I mean, it seems like 3 or 4 things happened that really made it come together for you to make this a no-brainer decision with your 7th place finish in the Central Opens at the end of 2018.
Yeah, it did. I mean, it was I had the tournament director call me that Monday morning after I got back from Shreveport. She said, man, you still, you got out of bed yet? I said, man, I was back at work at 7:15 this morning. But, that part, it was nice. I mean, it really, like I said, it did help me for my decision. Just, heck with it. You got to go try it, to go do it. Because, you don't get those opportunities very many times in your life, or I don't anyway. And the money definitely, it helped, because, it is getting sponsor money and stuff like that. It's few and far between, especially to get the, the money side. And I haven't grown, mine, I've always kind of done it myself. I don't really have too many big time sponsors, really. Phoenix and Mercury, and my boat dealer at Horizon over at Russellville, Arkansas over there. And they helped me out pretty well. And, I got Lawrence helping me out. Relatively, other than that, that's kind of what I got.
So
other than Luke.
Yeah, so let me get this straight. So from a financial standpoint, you're pretty much footing the bill.
Yeah, I call it Luke's Lawn Services footing the bill, which ain't a very big company. So,
wow.
But
now, have you ever been to Colgate, Matthew?
I feel like I've driven through it.
I've actually been to his hardware store, if it's where I think it is. It's the only one in Colgate, right?
Yeah, we're it. We're right off Main Street.
Now, I'm trying to get Matthew to understand how good in the heyday that McGee Creek was. You're not too far from McGee Creek, are you?
Yeah, about 35 minutes from it. But now it can be a big bass factory for sure. I mean, you can go over there and any flip could be a 10-pounder. You know, I mean, it's a fun lake too. You know, you can kind of do whatever you want. You can go way up the creeks and fish, or you can stay out in the main lake, or go flip cedar trees in 50 foot of water if you want to. You know, but you can damn sure catch some big ones.
All right, what do you think your biggest challenge is this year, Luke?
Probably not getting spun out, going places I've never been before. I mean, you know, I ain't been out of Oklahoma very often. You know, this last year we went to, you know, on the opens, traveling outside, and I'd been to Louisiana a few times fishing, but really learning how to fish grass, because you know how in Oklahoma there's really not, we got rocks and sand and boat docks, you know, relatively. And that learning how to fish grass will probably be my biggest thing to do, because you just don't get to do it very often here. You know, good grass, like, you know, hydrilla and milfoil and stuff like that. We got it with Lake Murray. I don't know if that really counts as grass fishing too much to me.
Right.
So,
right.
I feel like if you can go down to the Red River and survive, though, and make it back in one piece and win, you could pretty much figure anything out, though.
That was definitely that deal down there was pretty wild, because we could only unload at Red River South. All the other ramps were completely closed at the river that time. We fished it because it was so high, and there was guys running through stump fields that I'd seen before, because I fished the opens there a couple years ago, and I was cringed up for them when they was running through them. And so, I mean, I was kind of shocked to not tear anything up. It was bad. Floating stuff everywhere, hell, ice boxes, bed frames, you name it, it was floating down that river.
Hey, I was looking at your stats on the bass side, and your very first event was back in 2010 at Lake Texoma. What do you remember about that?
I remember being dumb. That I ran from the far out west of the Willis Bridge out there. I ran plumb to the north end and all over. I'd won a couple of championships that fall, and I said, well, heck, I'm going to go down there and, you know, see what I can do. And I just, 18, 19 years old, and just mentally I wasn't ready. I mean, I should have done a lot better. I had the fish on to really do well in that tournament, and I didn't execute at all. I think because I knew too much about the lake, you know, because, I mean, it's an hour and 15 minutes from where I'm at.
Right.
And I just knew too much stuff, and I was running every little stick and stob and stump and stuff that I knew, you know, and it just, you know, I mean, if I would have done well, I think it would have set up. I just wasn't ready. I mean, mentally I wasn't. You know, I was there, you know, physically and everything like that, but mentally I just wasn't to that point yet. And I'm glad that I didn't do really well, because, you know, if I'd have done that, you know, things could have been changed up in my life through there. And I'm thinking now where I'm at in life, I'm a lot better, you know, financially, mentally, kind of got everything right, you know, before I hit to go fish against them and stuff.
Yeah, there was a 6-year span after that first event before you went back to the opens, and you had some success in 2016. What did you learn over that 6-year period that gave you the green light that, okay, I'm ready to get back into this?
It was, you know, I got to fishing a lot. I mean, the team tournaments and stuff like that, you know, me and my dad had fished them, and I kept going with those, and I was still in college, which, heck, I had my yards and everything like that. I'd go from college. I had all my early classes, so I could be back to work by 11:30, and then I'd work till 4 or 5, then go mow grass till dark, and then go back to college. It was just and I wasn't ready then yet either. I mean, I knew it, and just kind of one of the deals I wanted to try to, where I was really consistent around here is what I was really wanting to do. I mean, there's, I didn't get to fish as much as a lot of guys do, because, a lot of them just, take off 2 or 3, 4 days for a tournament and go fish, these team tournaments even. And I still wasn't able to do that yet. And, and I had one of my buddies, he said, hey, he said, you got to go try this crap again, man. Just, get on it and go. And I got in there, and I was, since I seen that they were somewhat close, because me taking off for a week or 10 days at a time is kind of rough around here for me, or, for just me taking away from the store. I hate doing that. And, they were, I think, we went to Arkansas River, Shreveport, and then the dreaded Morgan City, which cost me making the elites that year. And it just, like I said, the timing wasn't right even then for me. And I'm glad I didn't make it, because mentally I wasn't ready. I thought I was, but I wasn't in. And now it's set up to where I felt like I was ready.
I'm really curious this year in 2018. I mean, you had a great year on the Opens, but the only event that you didn't cash a check was here in Oklahoma at Muskogee. What happened?
Ignorance. I make the long run. I've been doing it for a while, and my water, actually, to where I was fishing at, I caught some big stringers down there, in the pass, and I kept fishing past, and I found some fish on something that I never really had ever fished before. And I pulled in there the first morning, and hell, should have had a limit in about 7 or 8 flips. And I lost fish, and I kept thinking, man, I'm gonna run down there to that good stuff. And it was still muddy, and my co-angler flipped in behind me on a stump, caught a 4.5 pounder. I'm like, gosh dang it, how does that happen? Well, I run back to where we started, and he flips in and catches a 4.5 pounder behind me again. I'm thinking, wow, this is how it's going to go.
Wow.
And then the water. Then the wind started blowing the next day, and it blew like 25 mile an hour, and I was catching about a foot of water, so you can imagine what that does to it.
Yeah.
And my water dropped about 10 degrees, and I had a backup little area and went in there and should have had a limit out of it, and my co-angler loses a 6 pounder right behind me. So, I mean, it was right there for things to work for me, to at least get a check. I wouldn't have, there's no way I didn't have the fish on to really get up to that, 27 or 28 pounds that they had to make the top 12 cut. But it was just another learning experience. I knew too much on the place and went to running around too much instead of sticking in the area and really, working on it. And so on them rivers, it's kind of hard to do that one, because you got to run forever, it seems like, to get in an area. And then if they're not there, you're kind of, you're one and done in those places too.
Yep. Are you considering fishing the Central Opens in 2019?
No, I am not. I ain't gonna be able to. I probably could, but I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna stick it out on them 8 or 9 tournaments we got, and then I'll probably still fish a few little deals around here with my dad or something like that if I'm not off. So.
You mentioned the team tournament thing a number of times, and now I'm thinking, obviously, Jason Christie grew up fishing with his dad, James Elam. I mean, there's a number of guys. Terry Butcher Sr., who, I mean, have had incredible careers that kind of started it. I mean, for those that aren't in kind of the Oklahoma area, this is one of the very unique part of the country where you can fish against a stacked field for a significant amount of money on a variety of different fisheries, all the way from Texoma all the way up to Grand, and really learn a lot and fish for a lot of money on a weekly basis. I mean, is that obviously that team tournament stuff has had to been huge in your development and give you a lot of confidence to have success against 150 to 300 boat fields over the past 10 years?
Oh yeah, and like I'm saying, you're fishing against, a lot of times you got 2 sticks in the boat, fishing against some guys, especially you get up. It's kind of slowed down this, down here in southeastern Oklahoma. You get some stuff up from Texas that comes up, like the Texas Team Trail that, really pays out some big money. Or, and then you can kind of get up to Eufaula and you get a few skeeters up there. But, Grand's really where the money's at. You know, I mean, that, you know, heck, you can fish for what, anywhere from 5,000 to 20 or 30,000 every weekend from what, February to at least June. I mean, you're fishing for big money, you know, and you start talking that type of money, you know, you get some guys coming out, you know, like I said, you got Terry Butcher, all them up there at Grand, you know, and that Chad Warren and Pilcher, who won everything up there in the last 5 or 6 years. And, you know, you got some good guys that just show up for it, and it makes a big difference. You know, when you start compete with those type of guys that are in the boat and who fish, you know, probably a lot more often than I do, you know, you give yourself a little bit more confidence in yourself, I guess you'd say.
Hey, you guys need to have the battle of the hardware stores. Do you know Joe Paul Simon in Vian?
The name sounds familiar.
He fished a lot with Ed Barton. Do you know Ed Barton?
Oh, yeah, I know Ed.
Yeah. Well, Joe Paul.
Who doesn't know Ed? Everyone knows Ed.
Joe Paul has a Ace Hardware in Vian. So you can have
we're Ace.
Yeah, you can have the battle of the aces right there. Set that thing up.
Hey, that might work. Just as long as we don't go on the river. Can we stay away from the river on that deal? Because we got to fish in the river. That's not fair.
Yeah.
Some bucks are sticks on that place.
I'm with you, man. All right. Well, we wish you the best of luck, and it sounds like you got a plan. And the last question I really have for you is, are you going to give this thing, 2 years? And if it doesn't happen in 2 years, are you going to go back to, just being a normal guy that kicks buck on the weekends?
Well, he's still a normal guy, even if it works.
I'm not saying that. I'm talking from an Elite Series standpoint, from a tour standpoint.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really hope it doesn't turn to that. I hope it's, and I could get on this deal and it not be for me. I might not, which I've been out of Colgate like 6 times in my life, and I thought going to Ada was a big thing. We don't even have a stoplight in our town. I mean, you just drive straight through.
Yeah.
So we had a traffic jam the other day. We had 5 people at a stop sign. I mean, it was a pretty bad deal. So, but I'm hoping it works out. I'm definitely going to give it 2 years for sure. I mean, because hopefully I can do some well and maybe get my name out and maybe get a sponsor too and kind of help me out a little bit. But then paying out the money, that we're at least guaranteed $20,000 back. So that, you're still going to be out, $10,000-$12,000 on expenses, just guessing. So I'm hoping, hoping something happens and I maybe, get up there and get a few top 10s and, to be realistic on the deal. One thing about winning Rookie of the Year this year is going to be kind of a big deal because about over half the field is going to be rookies.
Yeah, good point.
So I mean, that. But the Rookie of the Year deal is really not something on my mind. To me, Angler of the Year is where it's at. The Rookie of the Year would be nice, but the real deal is with Angler of the Year, and that's what you shoot for every year, regardless if you're fishing a 7-boat tournament deal or 150. You want to win Angler of the Year regardless. And that's where I want to start at anyway, All
right, very cool. Last question, Matthew. On his profile on Bass, it said activities, and one of the activities was going to basketball games.
Here we go. Hope we got another 20 minutes.
No.
No, I do like basketball. That's one thing growing up. I played basketball and baseball, and fishing's really what kept me from kind of going on and doing that, at the next level, because I said, well, I'm not tall enough to go, play at the very next level, and I can't throw it 99 mile an hour, which I don't even know if 99 mile an hour would have helped me anymore, the way guys can throw it. But I figured, fishing, I do have a chance to make a little bit of money at it, and, and I've been doing it my whole life, so why not keep going? But basketball is definitely something that I miss it in a way, but I kind of miss fishing a lot more.
Did you play at Colgate?
Yeah, played here at Colgate. Yeah, we got to go to the state tournament. It was kind of shocking for us. We hadn't been since I think my uncle was there the last time they went to the state tournament.
Wow.
So
what are they? Class A?
30 years.
Class A?
We're 2A now, I think.
Okay.
So yeah, right. we're big boys. We had to play with Blake Griffin and them. That's whenever I played.
Oh yeah.
And he was in our same class.
Yeah, that was brutal.
Oh yeah, he kind of showed out a little bit and put a thumping on a lot of people.
Yes, he did. Absolutely. All right, Luke, man, thank you so much for taking time out. And
what about old did y'all do any good this weekend? Chippewa?
Oh, with
Porsche?
Porsche? Yeah, we got fifth on Saturday. We had us a solid bag with 4 overs and a spotted bass on 10 killer for $11.69.
Did he do anything, or he sat back there and make sandwiches and stuff all day?
Hey, he added to the cause. He helped out a lot. But you know what? Chip and I try to go. We were team partners. That's how I met him when we went to OU back in like 2006 and stuff. So we try to fish a couple tournaments a year. You know, he whenever the wife lets him out of the house, he'll come out and fish a tournament or two.
Yeah, he is locked down, ain't he?
Yeah, he actually left his. He had those special round rubber jigs and all that stuff. And I was cleaning out the boat yesterday because it rained on Sunday, and he had left his entire bag of jigs. And I called him, and he was at my house to pick that thing up in about 8 minutes.
Oh, tight
He goes. I left those jigs. He goes, I'll be right there. And he came, he picked him up, he held him like a football, got back in the truck, and was gone.
Oh, jeez. That's Chip.
Yeah.
That is. All right, Luke, man. Hope you have a great Thanksgiving, great holidays, and look forward to seeing you on the Elite Series in 2019.
All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, man. Take care.
We'll see.
All right. There you have it. Sounds like
you can catch him. I mean, you do. Like I said, I've heard his name and all that around.
Yeah.
And he can catch him. Hey, Landon Tucker just sent me a link. Did you know anything about this? It says Caymas Boats will invest $33.3 million and 280 jobs in Ashland City. They broke ground in Ashland November 19th, making the start of a company that expected to create 280 jobs over the next 5 years. Earl Bentz, described as a Nashville-based marine executive in a Tennessee Department of Economic and Community Development news release, founded Caymas Boats. The company will manufacture premium fiberglass saltwater and freshwater fishing boats in Ashland City beginning in February 2019.
Wow. Earl getting back into it. Huh. Interesting.
Talks about his time with Triton and all that stuff. And
huh. Interesting. Very, very interesting. All right. Once again, I want to thank Ken Duke for being on the show, and Luke Palmer. Best of luck to him.
I think he's going to catch him.
Yeah, he's right, man. That rookie class, if you want to have a mammoth amount of pride in the Rookie of the Year, this is going to be the year.
But he's caught him with the right group of people all around Oklahoma. Yeah. I mean, it's not like he just fished the Opens and got lucky and qualified. Like he's caught him for a long time.
Hey, he's doing it on his own dime too, man. It doesn't sound like he's getting a whole lot of financial help. So,
well, thankfully, it won't be the $90,000 investment. It'll only be $30,000.
Good point. All right, I want to wish everybody a very safe and happy Thanksgiving. Be safe on Black Friday if you're out there shopping. Oh, by the way, make sure you check out ducketfishing.com at 12:01 a.m. Central Time on Black Friday. A huge special that they're going to run out there for the entire weekend, not just Friday, but Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So they have never done anything like this before. So make sure you check it out, ducketfishing.com. And a massive deal is going to take place.
And if you go in there and you want to purchase a buff, check out who's modeling that buff.
That would be Matthew. All right, everybody, be safe. Enjoy the family. We will be back next Tuesday right here in studio. Everybody, stay tuned.